Welcome to the Springfield Business and Economic Review. I'm your host, Sarah Wolin, with the Greater Springfield Chamber of Commerce. Today we have representatives with us from the Illinois Small Business Development Center at Lincoln Land Community College, both Kevin Lust and Frank Mitchell. Thanks for joining us today.
We appreciate the opportunity, Sarah. Thanks for having us.
You bet. Let's start with, first of all, what is the Illinois Small Business Development Center at Lincoln Land Community College?
The Illinois Small Business Development Center is actually a partnership between a lot of great organizations that are designed to help people who are getting into business. First of all, the United States Small Business Administration, the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, and then Lincoln Land Community College here locally. And those three organizations have come together as organizations like that have come together across the country to provide a service to people who are either thinking of starting a small business or perhaps a small business that's already in operation that could use some help in growing or expanding, or perhaps even a business that isn't entirely certain that they're going to be able to stay in business.
Well, great. And Frank, what's your role? How do you fit in with this?
Well, I'm a business consultant. As people approach the Illinois Small Business Development Center, I'll be one of the people that will talk to them, advise them on what their next steps are, help them with a marketing plan, help them with their business plan, or just perhaps maybe play cheerleader and just give them a little boost.
Help them along.
Yes.
Well, that sounds great. And Kevin, what are some of the things you're doing at the center?
Well, I'm the director of the center, so in addition to the same type of counseling role that Frank plays, part of my role is to help us define our path and to decide on some of the best uses of our resources. Of course, as a government-supported agency, we're faced with limited budgets, as are most agencies these days, and so we try to determine the best way to use our money, the best opportunities to get the greatest return on our investment, much as an individual business would. So part of my role is the guidance role, shepherding us through all the bureaucratic issues that go with, with those multiple entities that provide our funding, and then, of course, the direct counseling work, and we all have seemed to kind of find our way into particular niches in a way, or rather in roles to serve our individual clients.
That sounds great. You talk about clients. Who can use your services?
Well, really anybody. The services of the Small Business Development Center are free, or if not free, they're at least prepaid. It's a chance for people actually to take advantage of the tax dollars that they've already sent in. So it is just a function of having the interest, having the desire, and a willingness to work at some of the suggestions that we might offer. Our motto is providing guidance for business growth, and more than a motto, it's our actual mission as well. And the problem with that word guidance is that it implies by its nature, I think, that we're not going to do the work for people. We need to recognize that we're going to be there to help point them in the right direction, to offer suggestions or cheerleading as it comes along, as the need comes along. But at the same time, it's not going to be our business. And so our clients, the people who might come to see us, we hope recognize that it's going to be their business, and thus the work that needs to take place before they get to having their own business is going to be their own. So while anybody can come to us, and we welcome all of them, we especially welcome those who recognize that starting a business isn't as simple as going down to the county building and filling out your doing business as forms.
If it was that easy, anyone and everyone would be doing it.
Well, it is just about that easy. That's the beautiful thing about this country, because in fact, you can start a business literally in an afternoon if you care to. The problem is starting a business that's actually going to stay in business.
Sustain itself.
Yeah, and that's where we come in.
Well, that sounds great. I know you guys offer some workshops also for participants who are interested in that. Can you tell me a little bit about what those offer?
That's correct. In fact, on a thrice monthly basis in the area, we do a program called Starting Your Business in Illinois. And it's basically a workshop on how to start a successful business. And we cover the importance of a business plan, how to choose your business entity, what the best choice is there, where to go for additional help and to get resources. And of course, those programs are free as well.
That sounds great.
And then we encourage the people after they go through the workshop to come and schedule some time with myself or Kevin or Linda Dillon, the other business specialist in the office, so that we can help them through the next steps. They might just have if you will, a germ of an idea, and they want to see what they should do next, or they may be ready to open their doors and they just want to double check with someone. Either way, we're there to help them and help them move the next rung up the ladder.
Sounds like a great resource. How can folks get involved or contact you or find out more information?
Well, the easiest thing to do is give us a call. Our phone number is 544-7232, which is actually 544-SBDC. So it,
very nice.
A little bit of marketing to try and practice what we preach. And also, we are accessible through the web on the Lincoln Land website. You have to dig a little deeper into it, but if you can find the workforce development section, we're part of that entity within Lincoln Land Community College. But again, the easiest way is to give us a call. We can talk with people about when our classes are coming up. They do operate on a regular schedule. We have a class in the evening from 6 to 8 on the first Thursday of every month in Springfield at Lincoln Land Springfield East Campus. We do a program in Jacksonville on the second Monday of every month. That's a morning program, I think 9:30 to 11:30. And then we also do another program in Springfield at Lincoln Land's Capital City Training Center, which is on the third Wednesday every month, and that's an afternoon 1:30 to 3:30 program. So we've tried to hit all the different components.
Something for everyone, and you don't have to be in Springfield for it, which is nice for others.
And we also hit some of the Springfield or the Lincoln Land regional centers as well. For example, we'll be in Taylorville at the Lincoln Land's Eastern Region Education Center, and that program is, I believe, going to be on October the 8th or 9th, I'm not sure, but again, you can call that 544-7232 number if you're interested in attending a program in Taylorville.
Yeah, and that's one of the great things. If you miss one month, if it doesn't work for your schedule, it sounds like there's always another one coming up,
That's
so
right.
you're set to go.
And those things really aren't a prerequisite. We love to have folks come through that program initially because it does give them a sense of what we're going to be talking about. For example, one of our key points of emphasis is always on the importance of planning your business very completely before getting into it. And we give people a good template, a good idea of what to expect as they get into the business planning process at that class. So by the time they come to visit with us as counselors, they are a little bit more aware of what we're going to ask of them.
Well, that's great.
And we want to emphasize that we're hoping to become partners with them throughout every step of their growth. There are people that have been in business for some time that still come back and see us and test us, if you will, or test what they're doing. And there are those that are new and just thinking about something. We've got a library at the Small Business Development Center where people can come and do research. We've got a computer there that's available to them, various software programs. So they could treat us not like a one-stop shop because we don't have everything, but we've got a number of resources that could be beneficial.
Sounds like a great variety of items. And you mentioned at these workshops, one of the things you cover is a business plan. Can you tell me a little bit about the importance of a business plan and why that matters?
Well, absolutely. In our opinion, it's one of the significant indicators of future success in business. Now, I want to emphasize as I say that it's not a requirement of success in order to be successful in business, because many businesses have started with, just as Frank mentioned, the germ of an idea and somebody with enough hustle and passion to follow the idea through to its successful fruition. But in our opinion, you greatly increase your chances of success if you do investigate all the questions that you're going to have to answer anyway when you're developing or when you're starting your business. We would rather have you investigate and answer those questions prior to starting your business, and that's the notion of the business plan. There are three main reasons why people would do a business plan, the first of which is, frankly, if you're going to use somebody else's money, you pretty much need one these days.
They want to know.
That's right. If you're going to present your idea to a lending institution or maybe an outside investor, even perhaps a family member or a friend who might be interested in investing in your business, they're not going to do it just on your careful explanation of that business. They really need to see that you've thought things through. We frequently tell our clients that your banker doesn't really need to know how to run your business. They don't care about running a carpet cleaning store or a service or a bar or restaurant. They don't need to know how to do that. They just need to know that you know how to do that. And so your business plan is, as much as anything, a defense of your ability to open a successful business, and in fact one that'll pay that lending institution their money back. So one of the biggest reasons is, if you are going to use someone else's money, that pretty much any time these days they will require a business plan. Another reason for doing it, though, is that just for your own purposes, you need to do a bit of a feasibility analysis before you get into the process. And of course that includes understanding just what you're getting into and whether or not the products or services that you're offering are in fact going to be products or services that people want to take advantage of.
It's kind of like doing your homework then in advance.
It really is. It's a big part of it, and that really is the third reason for doing it, for yourself. I think if you're going to take this kind of a step, particularly somebody who is thinking of opening a business that's more than just a hobby or more than just a part-time thing that they might do after their regular working hours, I think you owe it to yourself to cover all your bases before you get into it.
Yeah.
And as I said before, there are questions you're going to have to answer anyway. Why not answer them before they need to be answered?
Yeah.
Because it'll probably cost you less money if you do it in advance than in the crunch of doing business and it becomes an emergency.
That's right, and a lot less stress as well. It's the same thing as if you're traveling on a path to vacation and you come across a block in the road. Your destination is wherever you're headed, the resort or Disneyland or Wally World or wherever it is. And you don't want to get there and discover the park's been closed. So,
ooh, not good.
No.
Not good for anyone. So when putting together a business plan, is there a certain time frame that's best to do this prior to starting?
Well, definitely prior to starting would be helpful, but before you go and talk to a lending institution, you probably should have your plan pretty much together by then. We get a lot of referrals from banks asking us to get involved, asking the customer to get us involved. So attending our workshop, sitting down with us, getting some of our resources at your disposal would be very helpful at the front end of the process, rather than going to the bank, getting turned down, and then coming to us and trying to get us to put a Band-Aid on it and send you back to the bank.
In fact, one of the main things that we emphasize with our clients is that when you are in front of a lender, you want to avoid the word no.
Yeah.
And of course, ultimately, that no is no, we're not going to give you your loan. But prior to that, there's a lot of no's that add up. And as an example, most lenders today will ask that you include 3 years of financial projections in your business plan in order to review it for whether or not they'll make the loan. So if the lender gets your application or your package of information and they look through and say, well, are there 3 years of financial projections in here? If the answer is no, then they make a little tick mark in their box and they have to call you later and you have to prepare them and bring them back. Then they'll say, well, gee, we need 2 years of personal financial records in here, personal tax returns. Are there 2 years of personal tax returns in here? No, okay, now call, prepare, stretches out the time frame. And all along the way, those little no's add up. What we'd like to see is when our clients leave our office, they've got well, not a perfect, but at least a complete packet put together that they can take to their lender, and the lender says, are there 3 years of cash flow projections? Yes, here they are, behind the little tab marked. Yeah, exactly. Behind the little tab marked, 3 years of cash flow projections. And are there 2 years of personal tax returns? Why, here they are, right behind the tab marked 2 years of personal tax returns. The beauty of that is now you're adding up yeses. And when it gets to the point where maybe there's a question, should I make the loan or not make the loan, we think that greatly increases your chances of having the final answer be yes and having it be a win.
It really sounds like it makes it a much smoother process.
Right. One of the questions I get from clients all the time is, where do I come up with the projections? And really, you're the expert as the business person getting ready to go into business, so it's what you really accurately and in your heart think, and based on your knowledge of the business, that the business is going to do and how much it's going to grow. And that's what you put down. It's not what your dream is, it's what your reality should be. Because if you put down what your dream is, the bank is going to look at it and they're going to judge it and say,
you're in dreamland.
Yeah, you're in dreamland. This person's not being realistic. And just like Kevin talked about the checklist of yeses and nos, those projections go before a financial person at that lending institution, and they've got their own little checklist. And if you're showing that you're going to have a return on your investment of 50%,
it's a red flag.
and all their numbers say it should be like 5%, then there's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
So come to us. We as part of our professional development, we have people coming in all the time from banks, from lawyers, accountants, a lot of other professionals that support business to keep us up to date on what's going on so we can pass that on to our clients.
That sounds great. Now, you've mentioned a couple of different financial parts of the business plan. What does the business plan encompass? What should someone be prepared for putting together?
You know, it's kind of funny because as much as we emphasize it, there's no perfect template out there. It really is an explanation of what you expect to have happen. People go into businesses for different reasons, and so sometimes there are different elements that support those reasons. Just as an example, you'll find a lot of people who do want to translate their hobby into a business. That is, finally start raising some money or earning some money from things they've done anyway. And yet they're not really concerned about it becoming a their sole revenue provider, or even becoming an entity that they're going to sell later on or something. Other times there are people who go in business with the initial intent of, hey, down the line, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, I'm going to have a business that somebody will be interested enough in to buy it from me. So each of those types of plans brings different components to the mix. As a general rule, though, you're going to start off with an overview of what the business is, and that overview includes pretty much the basics. What are you selling? Who's going to buy it? How much does it cost you to make it? And how much can you sell it for? And that overview ought to be something that you yourself are able to express pretty succinctly. From there, you're going to go into a deeper description of the business, its products or services. You're going to go into a description of the marketplace, and that typically involves a lot of research on demographics, or who the likely buyers of your product or service are. It will include an explanation of perhaps trends in the marketplace, and these are the kinds of things that we can help with because we see them and we know them. And it can also include a review of some of the other businesses in town. Typically you'll have a pretty extensive section of your business plan describing and explaining who the competition is.
Oh, again, a great thing to do in advance. You don't want to open up your business and then, oh, I didn't realize they're out there.
That many organizations are there, or perhaps, you know, we've had people come in and say, well, nobody here is doing this, and then you have to ask the question, well, why not?
Yeah.
Is
there a reason?
Yeah, are you really clever enough to have thought of an idea that no one else has considered, or perhaps are you really sort of fooling yourself that your clever idea really has only a very narrow marketplace?
Right.
So that market analysis is really a big part of it. You will have the financial analysis as well, cash flow projections, a review of your personal balance sheet, as well as the tax returns that I mentioned earlier. You're going to have a description of the principles involved, resumes, maybe not so much the how do I get a job resume, but a targeted resume explaining your experience and why you bring to the table the knowledge that you'll need to make your business successful. And then also within there, you'll have a pretty good description of how you intend to market your business, a marketing plan. Of course, Frank's expertise being in the marketing and media planning area. So there are a lot of ingredients. It really is a description of what's going to be happening on a day-to-day basis with your business, and what you intend to do to ensure that you have enough days in succession to stay open.
Well, and you talked a little bit about the resume, and that really demonstrates the experience. Someone who's going to open up a restaurant, it'd be nice if they know a little about food service.
In fact, it's one of the big indicators of success that you do have experience within your industry. We find a lot of people who, well, particularly with bars and restaurants, you know, unfortunately, the only experience they have in, you know, in running a bar is that they've sat in a lot of them. That's not always not always a guarantor of future success within the industry. But at the same time, I had one client who literally had spent 13 years of his life preparing for the day when he was going to own his own restaurant. From the time he left high school, he entered the Coast Guard and worked in through their culinary arts program so that he'd have an understanding of the actual food preparation, etc. He worked at different places, carefully taking notes about the management and operations of things, and became a manager of restaurants. And so that experience made his lender, even in an industry that is historically a difficult one for lenders to support, his experience and his driven intent over that period of time made it very easy for his lender to support.
Well, he was prepared, it sounds like.
Now, is that to say that somebody who's never owned a restaurant can't operate a successful one, or really any business? Of course not. It is, however, another plus in our checklist of yes, yes, yeses. Do they have experience in the industry?
But our role at the Illinois Small Business Development Center is not to judge someone's business idea, because Kevin likes to point out it all the time how we might have responded to the guy who came in with the box of rocks and said, I've got this idea to put these in boxes and sell them.
As pets.
You know,
You might have thought they were crazy.
We might have thought they were crazy, but if we had laughed them out of the office and then we saw them walking down the street a couple years later, they'd have had the last laugh.
They would have been millionaires.
Right. So we want to offer someone a realistic perspective and vision of what they're talking about, what their risks are, what the highs and lows of their business may be. But it's up to them to do. It's their business. They're going to make it work, or they're not.
Yeah.
It's not our job.
A lot of times clients will ask directly, do you think this is a good idea or not? And my response to that is typically just what Frank mentioned to explain the pet rock story, but also to tell them that it's really not my idea to decide if it's a good idea or not, but to point out the types of things that should lead them to their decision. The other thing that I'll often say to somebody is, if I thought it was a really bad idea, we'd spend a lot more time talking about different things for you to look at. Frequently I'll have clients in and we say, here's what you should be doing next. And I would hope that people take that as an indicator that, you know, it's an
you should
idea.
move forward.
That's right. And other times we'll be talking about things they need to look at again,
Yeah.
which maybe you haven't been quite so realistic in your revenue projections, or maybe you haven't fully considered the marketplace.
Yeah.
Maybe you haven't looked at all the competition. We had a venture capitalist one time tell us that the only way they automatically kick a deal out, that is to say, the only reason for not looking at a potential investment deal is if, in the context of their business plan, the potential business owner says that they don't have any competition. Because the venture capitalist says that at that point, we know that they don't really know what they're getting into.
They haven't done their homework.
Well, that's right. Just as an example, our coworker, Linda Dillon, who Frank mentioned a moment ago, generally teaches our workshops. And she had an individual in the workshop one evening who said that she was going to be opening a clothing store. And in fact, it was a clothing store that would appeal to our friend Ms. Dillon. She's a very stylish dresser, and she, the lady said, I'm going to sell clothes to you. And Linda said, okay, so who's your competition then around here? And the lady said, well, there's no competition around here. And Linda, in her very inimitable way, said, am I naked?
I have some
that's right. And so clearly the competition is present. Now, it's not here in Springfield.
Right.
And so she seeks different options from different locations. Now, why I share that story is because the person who said that really didn't think through the situation. To say there's not competition would say that nobody is buying this product. So if somebody is buying the product, then where they're getting it is your competition. Or further, even if the product doesn't exist yet, somebody's spending the money that you're going to ask them to spend on something else.
Yeah.
Now, these are the types of things that we hope to be able to sort of spotlight or highlight for people as they come in.
It really sounds like you're coaching them through this process,
That's exactly
leading
right.
them along. Frank, Kevin mentioned a little bit that the marketing portion of the business plan was important. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Well, whatever you're offering, you've got to sell it to somebody. So how you go about getting to that market is obviously very important. A lot of people always, they come in, they'll say, well, we're going to advertise. Well, my view is that may work or it may not, but you may not have the money to advertise. That's not always an economical concept.
Yeah.
But you still want to get the word out. So I try to offer them some other options. I have a background in the news media. If you can get the news media to do a story about you, then you've got essentially some free advertising. Yeah. If it's in the newspaper, you've got those column inches. If it's on television, you've got a couple of minutes of free airtime. So that can be just as effective as a paid ad. Other things is if you've really got a targeted market, if you're only marketing to people in a certain age group who only do a certain thing, then why advertise to the entire community?
Good point.
Figure out where are those folks going to be able to see my message, and how can I get it to them the least expensive for my company.
Yeah.
So we'll sit down and we'll just talk through some of those things, and it really becomes a brainstorming session between us and the client.
Unfortunately, a lot of folks come in and the first thing they share with us in regards to their marketing is a discussion of how they're going to advertise. And as Frank will work with them, as will I and Linda as well, that's really the bottom of the list of questions. I mean, first you have to start off with a question of who your customer is, and hence
Yeah.
the targeted marketing piece. Then you decide, where do you find those people? And once you've identified that, then you can say, okay, how best can I reach those people in the places where they are? And advertising is one very strong component of that, but it's not the
Yeah.
only one.
Well, and you talked about the earned media. That takes a lot of strategizing to get through with that and move forward with that, so your coaching really helps that, I'm sure.
Hopefully.
Are there any success stories that you guys would like to share, or lessons learned where this planning has gone well?
Well, we have a great number of success stories. We're really blessed to have had the opportunity to work with a lot of folks who carried through on their ideas and their dreams. And a couple that we were talking about in preparation for this show include one gentleman who really had no concept nor background nor experience whatsoever in the concept or in the notion of business planning or financial projections. He was at his lender's office. He ran a successful part-time business delivering a particular item, types of items. He had 3 vehicles. He was in a position where he felt like he could gain contracts that would support 12 vehicles, so he's buying 9 additional ones. Well, he had small loans with his lender. His lender was very happy to make a new loan, but he said, look, I can't do this myself anymore. My lending authority won't allow me to make this loan. We're going to need a business plan that I can present to our credit analysis department and to my senior lenders. I'm going to need cash flow projections in there. And as our client told me later, he said, I thought he was talking Portuguese at that point. I didn't know where he was going, cash flow projections. And so our lender friend called us and said, hey, Kevin, do you have time to visit with this fella? And in fact, I did just at that moment. So he walked across the square, came up into our office, spent about an hour and a half with us. We went through the format, some of the ideas about how to generate these projections, which, by the way, he had done already. He just
wasn't using the right term.
And he didn't recognize, that the banker wants to see it in a particular format.
Right.
And so we shared that with him. We worked through the details, and he went home that evening, did the homework on it, was back in the lender's office, and then within a matter of a couple of days, had the loan for those additional 9 vehicles.
Wow.
Took him to 12, and right now I think the latest number I have from him is that he's at 27.
Wow.
So it's a great success story, and just the small piece that we can, a good example of what we can share.
That sounds great. And you guys are both small business owners yourself, so you're not talking about this to clients without knowing things
No,
either.
that's
You've
right.
had the experience, haven't
We've seen
you?
both ends of things.
Right. And we didn't always do things the right way, so we can share that too.
Yes. Any strong lessons learned there that you pass on to your clients?
Well, again, the business plan, it's imperative you start
Yeah.
there. And don't be afraid to ask for help, because there's a lot of it out here, and it won't cost you anything, or it won't cost you much.
All right. Well, that sounds great. Kevin, one more time, what's the phone number so they can give you a call for more information?
We're at 544-SBDC. That's 544-7232.
Well, that sounds great. Kevin, Frank, thanks so much for joining us here today.
Thank you.
Again, thank you for joining us for the Springfield Business and Economic Review. I am your host, Sarah Wolin, with the Greater Springfield Chamber of Commerce, and we look forward to seeing you next time.